Right now in South Korea, a disturbing and bizarre situation is actually unfolding right now. For years, many women confidently declared that if they're capable, it's simply better to live alone, pursuing careers and independence rather than the perceived burdens of marriage. And guess what? They got exactly what they asked for. The result? A growing chorus of these very same independent women now loudly proclaiming their intense, skin-crawling loneliness and existential dread as they hit their late 30s. It seems the better alone mantra comes with a hidden clause. Unless you actually have to be alone, what's almost impossible to believe is that this demand for independence wasn't some abstract ideal. It was a masterclass in blunt human psychology colliding head-on with ruthless capitalist market dynamics, where everything, even human relationships, gets commodified. At its root, this stems from what you might call Korean women's being in a hyper-competitive society. For a generation, women here have been told, and rightly so, to strive for individual achievement, education, and financial autonomy. Marriage, especially within traditional structures, often presented a stark contrast: a loss of financial control, a disproportionate burden of household chores and childcare, and a cultural expectation to prioritize family over self. So the demand for independence wasn't just about freedom, it was a rational economic calculation. Why invest in a partnership that might significantly decrease your personal net worth or dramatically increase your unpaid labor, when you can just cut out the middleman and keep all your hard-earned cash for yourself? It's the ultimate capitalist logic applied to dating and marriage, optimized for personal gain, minimize perceived costs. This is not some abstract feminist ideal. It's a fierce, often brutal fight for a bigger slice of the financial pie in a system that rewards individual wealth above all else.
I've seen so many of my female friends choose to stay single just to keep their money and careers on track. It makes sense in a country like this.
Exactly. Why would I give up my hard-earned income and freedom to be someone's maid and nanny? Especially when there's so much pressure to be perfect at everything.
Wait, but why does that lead to loneliness? Wouldn't financial independence make you happier?
The real twist that makes this even more unsettling is that the pie they were fighting for turned out to be a solitary, often bitter dessert. As recent data from Seoul confirms, a staggering 20.4% of 40 to 59-year-olds are now unmarried, and over 80% of those live alone. While high earners among them report less loneliness, for many, this pursuit of individual financial security has inadvertently atomized their social lives. The cultural expectation that family would always be the bedrock of support simply disappeared. But no robust social family equivalent stepped in. The most devastating detail that defines this tragedy is the story of a 37-year-old career woman. She earned a respectable living, secured her independence, and then her married friends, who were relying on their husbands' incomes, started treating her like an ATM. They'd demand she pay for expensive meals, including their kids' portions, then gaslight her into driving their children around, implying she had endless free time because she lacked children of her own. This wasn't friendship. It was transactional exploitation, a symptom of a society where financial status often dictates social dynamics, even among peers. Her friends, likely facing their own economic and social pressures within traditional roles, commodified her friendship, seeing her financial freedom not as an aspiration but as a resource to be tapped. Here's why this was no accident. The problem was not prevented earlier because the deep-seated cultural expectations shifted much slower than the economic realities, leaving a significant portion of the population without adequate social structures and protections for their chosen life path.
So, they ditch their friends and then get lonely? That's messed up.
The reason people are unanimously stunned is that when they got exactly what they asked for, they ended up with a profound sense of emptiness. This perfectly illustrates how the cold logic of capitalism inevitably punishes naive, contradictory demands. Our 37-year-old, having successfully pruned away her exploitative friends, suddenly found herself utterly alone. Her other single friends yearned for marriage, creating an insurmountable conversational gap. Her working mom friends were simply in a different universe. The very independence she fought for isolated her, leaving her with no one to call at night, no one to check on her well-being as she aged. The cost-benefit analysis of life, it turns out, failed to factor in the intangible, priceless value of genuine human connection. But this was only the beginning. The inferiority complex of her married friends, who once subtly mocked her single status while simultaneously draining her wallet, became tragically ironic as she realized that her freedom had led to an emotional prison. The capitalist pursuit of individual wealth and autonomy, while delivering on its promise of financial independence, simultaneously stripped away the social safety nets and communal bonds that were once implicitly part of the societal package, leaving many high-earning single Korean women to face a future of solitary wealth and profound loneliness. It's almost as if the market whispered, "You wanted to be an island. Here's your very own deserted island, complete with a fantastic view and no one to share it with."
That's a brutal way to put it. So basically, they lost their social life for money?
What's truly shocking is that the systemic flaws underpinning this burgeoning social crisis are deeply entrenched in South Korea's inability to adapt its social and institutional safeguards to rapidly evolving demographics and economic realities. Historically, the extended family served as the foundational social safety net, providing comprehensive emotional, financial, and practical support. However, with rapid urbanization and industrialization and the subsequent shift towards single-person households, these informal family-based safeguards have fractured without adequate, comprehensive institutional replacements. The societal pressure to adhere to traditional roles of marriage and motherhood still lingers, creating a cultural void and marginalization for single individuals who lack a clearly defined social status or integrated support system outside of conventional family units.
I thought being financially independent meant I could choose my own path and be truly free.
But now you realize that path led you away from what you actually needed. It's a tough lesson to learn, and many are finding it out the hard way.
The system, driven by economic rationalism, inadvertently fosters these interpersonal conflicts, as individuals, both consciously and unconsciously, aggressively fight for their share of the financial pie, even within their closest social circles. This relentless pursuit of individual economic advantage, a core tenet of ruthless capitalism, fundamentally undermines the communal bonds once sustained by traditional social structures, leaving many isolated despite their financial success. Now look closer at this shocking scene. If these trends remain unchecked, the long-term social ripple effects will be profound and detrimental. The most immediate and significant consequence will be a worsening public health crisis characterized by widespread chronic loneliness and mental health issues. The subject's visceral experience of loneliness and fear of dying alone will become increasingly common, leading to higher rates of depression, anxiety, and even suicide among single individuals, particularly as they age.
So, it's not just a personal problem, but a bigger societal breakdown?
The critical clue we absolutely cannot miss is that the erosion of traditional community bonds will lead to a more fragmented and less cohesive society. As individuals increasingly live atomized lives, participating less in collective activities, the sense of shared responsibility and collective identity will diminish. This could manifest as decreased civic participation, weakened social movements, and a general decline in the informal support systems that underpin a healthy society. The true nature of this incomprehensible situation is the painful revelation that optimizing for individual economic gain within a capitalist framework, without simultaneously nurturing strong social capital and responsive institutional support, inevitably leads to widespread social fragmentation, emotional destitution, and a profound crisis of belonging. This isn't just someone else's problem. The very capitalist drive that pushed for individual success will, paradoxically, create a society of isolated individuals, struggling to find meaning and connection outside of transactional exchanges. The chilling formula hidden beneath the surface is the stark reality that while high-income single households earning over 8 million Korean won monthly show the highest life satisfaction and lowest loneliness, low-income single households earning under 2 million Korean won monthly experience significantly higher loneliness. This shows that the problem isn't just about personal choice, but about the deeply unequal distribution of resources and social capital. The real background behind their audacity, the reason these women initially felt empowered to choose radical independence, was the promise of a better life, free from traditional burdens. But what they found was a new kind of burden, an emotional one, that even significant wealth can't always alleviate. The one blow that completely shattered people's understanding was realizing that the market had delivered on its financial promise, but at the cost of genuine human connection. The veil has finally been lifted, revealing that economic independence without social support can become a gilded cage. Fuel the truth at Dating in Korea. Support the structure. Stay safe in the lounge.